1, 2, 3.
General Scout and Helium 10, their web traffic is down by 50% just in the last 2 years. For the largest software providers for Amazon sellers, like that's kind of a big deal. Like what's going on? What's the story behind this? And what do we make of that? What impact does that have on you? I'm Scott Needham. Welcome to the show. This is the Smartest Amazon Seller. We are going to dive in, and I've got some perspective because I've used these tools for a long time, and I'm somewhat of a competitor of theirs, at least with some of their products, not with everything that they do. This kind of jumped out at me as like, okay, if both of them are down, there's some market forces going on. And despite like what everyone thinks, like market forces are often stronger than like any single thing that someone can do. So I also just like want to like address like one elephant in the room. Like if you've noticed a change to my podcast YouTube channel, that's because I'm slowing down to bring on guests. I think it's been a lot of fun. I mean, like I would do the podcast if no one listened to it, just to talk to some of these people. And so I've had some like amazing episodes, but I kind of just want to do the content that I want to do right now. I want to talk about what I want to talk about. I want to like talk about the insights that I'm seeing, and and just like what like engages with people. I think I've been at this for about 5 years, a few thousand listeners. Some of you guys have been from the very beginning, and I know for some, it's a niche business podcast, but it's been fun to like be some people's favorite podcast. I think you're gonna like what's in store. There's been a lot of good stuff, and this is exactly the type of stuff that I want to talk about, because we're gonna show some trends. No one was talking about this issue until I found it. So let me tell you how I found like what's going on. Like actually anyone could have broke this story. Not like it's a story. I'm just something I'm breaking. If you've been following me on my newsletter or on LinkedIn, I've already talked about this, but I'm going to jump into a little bit more detail that, the top tools, like their search traffic is down. So is the term sell on Amazon. I went into Google Trends and just typed them in, and over the last 10 years, they've just only been climbing. And actually, Helium 10 caught and surpassed Jungle Scout by a small margin, not like crazy, but things peaked at the end of 2022. And so if you just look at a graph from 2022 onto right now, traffic is down considerably. This is branded traffic. Certainly, a lot of their content gets a lot of views, but this is people that just type that in. And I have to think that, I've got 3 takeaways from this. First is that like, this just tells me that there's just fewer new Amazon sellers. 2020, 2022, that was an era where e-commerce was just on fire. You could throw anything up and just like win. And like, this is like aggregator. There was just money going around. This fever dream was there. And we all know something about that's true about new sellers. Most of them don't last too long. They hit some opposition and they turn away. They move to a different business model. Was this just a side hustle? I've seen a lot of people come in and leave. And that's actually true of so many businesses that people start. So I'm not going to like blame them, but that's just kind of it. And so, but there's often just like new entrants. Like if you understand like the US economy, 300 million people, let's say there's 150 million people that are working age people. That's 150 million. How many of them every single year start a side hustle? How many of those side hustles are e-commerce? It's a large percentage, but maybe that percentage is dwindling. Actually, I'd be very curious to see like Shopify traffic. Maybe I'll do that live. So I'm just going to jump in and actually just show my screen for those that haven't. This is the chart that is going on of this trend, and got a lot of traction. I got 27,000 impressions, a lot of people weighing in. I even had the former CEO of Helium 10. I had other people in the industry like Brandon Young, plenty of guests on the podcast kind of weigh in and say that. And I generally agree with them. And I think they generally agreed with my premise, because you can't lie with this data, that there are fewer new Amazon sellers, fewer people that are like following the fever dream of selling on Amazon. But guess what? There's the next story that I would say about this is Amazon in the last 2 years has grown about 15 to 20%. It's about 10% year over year for 2 years. And so, what does that mean? If there are fewer newer sellers, that just means the large sellers keep growing. The big get bigger, and larger brands, they're paying attention and that they're ignoring Amazon less. I'm talking about 1P brands that see Amazon as a channel, not their main business. Where if you're talking about the conglomerates, I'm actually doing some research on conglomerates right now, and I'll jump more into that on another episode. But for example, Mondelez, they have like food brands like Nabisco, Ritz, Oreo. They do 100 million on Amazon. Guess what? That's nothing to them. They're in every single grocery store. So Amazon's not that great. But guess what? For them, maybe they'll start to pay attention. Maybe they'll start to make Amazon only offers. What if they made their seasonal Oreos always available on Amazon? There's not too much to lose other than the effort to do it. But that's the type of thing that I think that this chart shows. Traffic to these, for new sellers is down. Big brands are only getting bigger. And they tend to use agencies often because they need expertise. So that's just what I see. So there's no need for doom and gloom. If you're succeeding on Amazon, this shouldn't say too much about what's going on. And then the third thing that I just really want to emphasize and drill home is that this is market forces. If you worked for Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, don't feel bad about this. You're not in control of market forces. The 150 million people and how many of them are starting side hustles of selling on Amazon. You don't control that as much as the broader market. And I mean, shoot, I'm recording this 2 days after the election. The big picture, the greater market has big sweeping things that really no individual company tends to control, especially for a niche industry like Amazon selling. So that's, super interesting. I'm a competitor to these tools, at least some of their tools, and our traffic is up for the last 2 years. Not tremendous. We're up 30, 40, 50%, but we're a small service comparatively. These guys are at least 10 times our size, maybe more. And so we're less likely to fill the market forces. Maybe we're fighting for additional market share, but it's encouraging. Hey, apologies. I actually finished the episode, but it stopped recording. So we're going to continue the conversation. So we were just talking about Jungle Scout, Helium 10 traffic down 50%. But there's another current event that I think just kind of has to be mentioned. I think it affects a lot. And I've even had a change of feeling. So Trump was just elected, right? And whether you're expecting it or not, I don't really care. I stayed out of politics for the last 3 months. I just didn't look at any news, kind of deleted a lot of social medias. It's kind of hard when I do social media for work, but honestly, trying my best to just stay off that. Well, he was elected, and I kind of had a change of heart that there actually might be some really considerable changes that can have long-term dramatic effects on the Amazon industry. That is tariffs. That is his war against China. I actually think it's quite possible he does it because he's done it before, and he seems Trump seems very brazen. And it feels weird for me to comment on Trump. I just don't like doing it publicly. And just because I'd rather stay out of politics, religion, all that stuff, just feels weird to mix business with some of that stuff. So, but these tariffs, obviously it's going to impact things. And for people that source products out of China, we do. That tariff is actually significant. We have to raise our prices obviously a little bit, but maybe we're a little bit less competitive. So, people are going to be looking for other countries to avoid what could potentially be a 60% tariff. And I wouldn't be surprised if they this time get serious about businesses in China that are selling to the US and kind of scrutinizing and to make sure that it's an even playing field of sorts. So this really could impact, the fact that Chinese sellers are 40 to 50% of the revenue on Amazon. That's pretty crazy. I personally stand to gain by a stronger US seller base. While I'm a seller, yeah, but I focus more on being a service provider, and the internet is split. China has their own search engines, their own social medias. We have our own. In fact, I found out a week or two later that one of the visuals that I had created went viral in China. And actually, if you look at it, you'll understand why. I did a report on the top cities for Amazon sellers. And let's see, let me share my screen real quick. And as you can see here, the top city number 1, Shenzhen, has over 100,000 sellers. Guangzhou, Puxian, Dongguan. The top 4 cities are all Chinese cities. Then you get Brooklyn, which is actually New York, but sellers just put in Brooklyn. And when I put this out, like it got shared like wildfire, as I was actually talking to a Chinese seller, a very large Chinese seller, that he's like, yeah, this was shared everywhere. You weren't really given a lot of attribution, but that's that. So that's funny. And maybe I'll have to, next time I do some of these visuals, we'll have to throw a big stamp on it of like, hey, this is ours. I don't expect any Chinese sellers to use my services. We're just going to be thinking differently. They have their own top tool, Seller Sprite. Sure, that makes me want to like research that a little bit, see if they're down or up over the last 2 years. So that's the end of what I was wanting to get to. Sorry that was a split over 2 different things. Hopefully my voice sounds similar. I'm wearing a different shirt. I don't really care that much, but either way, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
1, 2, 3.